Welcome to Land of the Bible. I'm your host, David Sussman. This week, we're going to explore the Western Wall tunnels in Jerusalem.
I'm Shani. We are in Jerusalem. We are at the Kotel at the Western Wall, and we're about to enter into the Western Wall tunnels and to tell the amazing story of the archaeological excavations of the tunnel and the significance of the Western Wall here in Jerusalem. According to the biblical story, Abraham was sent to this area, to the land of Moriah, and he was asked to do the hardest thing one can be asked to do, the binding of Isaac. And Abraham, with Isaac, climbed to the top of Mount Moriah. And on the top of Mount Moriah, Abraham raised a knife, and at that point, an angel called him from heaven, "Do not harm the boy. God has just tested you." And this event of the binding of Isaac started the connection between the Jewish people and this place, Jerusalem, approximately 4,000 years ago. "1,000 years after Abraham, King David arrived to Jerusalem. When King David came here, there was already a small settlement on the southern slopes of the Moriah mountain, ruled by the Jebusites. David took the city from the Jebusites and announced Jerusalem as the capital that will unite between the 12 tribes, the city of David. David, as we know, fought the biblical Philistines, fought Goliath, and he had the blood of the wars on his hands, and God told him only a man of peace will be the one to build the house of peace, the Jewish temple. So only his son, Solomon, built the temple on the top of Mount Moriah approximately 3,000 years ago. Solomon's temple was destroyed in the year 586 BCE. Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, destroyed the first temple, and the people of Israel went out to an exile, the first exile, the Babylonian exile. In the 1st century BCE, when a Roman Jewish king came here to rule Judea under a mission that was given to him by the Caesar in Rome, and the name of this ruler was King Herod the Great. King Herod, for his own crazy reasons, decided that he wants to renovate the second temple for the Jews on the top of Mount Moriah. But he had a problem. The top of the mountain was too small for his project. And what he decided to do is to change the entire topography of this area in order to build the second renovated Herodian temple. They built an enormous platform known till today as the Temple Mount. The size of the platform that was built was 144 dunams, which I think is approximately 70 acres. And now he had enough room to build the second temple. This was massive. In order to support the plaza, Herod had to build supporting walls or retaining walls from all four sides. So he built one from the south, one from the east, the northern wall, and here is the western wall. In the year 70 AD, according to the Jewish tradition, on the day of Tisha B'Av, the second temple was destroyed. This time, not by the Babylonians, the Romans destroyed the second temple, and the people of Israel went to another exile. This time, not 70 years in Babylon, this time a very long exile of almost 2,000 years, where Jews spreaded all over the world, always dreaming, remembering, praying, and yearning to Jerusalem. Thirteen 1,300 years ago, a bit after Islam started, the Muslims, the early Muslims, have built the Dome of the Rock, standing in the middle of the Temple Mount till today. When the Dome of the Rock was built by the early Muslims, the western wall, the Kotel, was still completely in its entire length, all exposed, and the early Muslims fixed it. Some of the higher rows of the wall that were destroyed by the Romans in the 1st century AD were fixed by the Muslims 1,300 years ago. So when did the wall disappear? Approximately 700 years ago, in the 14th century, the Mamluks have came to Jerusalem, and they ruled Jerusalem for a few hundred years. And the Mamluks, when they arrived to Jerusalem, first when they came, they lived right next to the Western Wall, here in the lower area of the valley next to the Western Wall. Living in the valley in Jerusalem is not a very good idea, both in terms of strategy. If an enemy comes from the north, he will be higher than you and will easily control you. And also in terms of climate. Winters in Jerusalem can be quite rainy, and it's not a very good idea living down here. But they didn't want to move from here. They didn't want to go away, far away from their holy place. So what did they decide to do? The Mamluks filled this valley with hundreds of arches. Hundreds of arches were built in the valley next to the wall, and on top of those arches, they have built their new homes. The houses here are, till today, this is the Muslim quarter. We have many houses in the Muslim quarter which were originally built in the Mamluk times. And actually, some of those houses, till today, if you will enter into these houses, you'll be able to see the Western Wall as one of the walls of the house. Look, we're standing under an arch. This is one of the arches that were built by the Mamlukians more than 700 years ago. And on top of this arch, a house, one of the houses of the Muslim quarter. Walking through the Western Wall tunnels is basically walking under those arches that many of them were built by the Mamlukians 700 years ago. Look, another arch and another arch, arch after arch, and these were all built by the Mamlukians, and we are now right under the houses of the old city, under the Muslim quarter. So we have entered into this amazing hall, which was built in the time of the Crusades. It used to be a hospital in the times of the Crusades. Later on in history was used as stable for horses and place to host people who came here to Jerusalem. And it's amazing to think that when this place was excavated, it was all full of dirt, soil, rocks, and garbage from the ground to the top, to the ceiling, and slowly, in a very gentle, delicate archaeological excavation, this place was found, and look at it today. This is amazing. Look at the huge pillars right here. Look at the arches. This is one of the most beautiful, amazing archaeological excavations, one of the most amazing findings that we have here in the tunnels in the last few years. From here, we're going to go towards the Great Bridge. Till now, we mostly saw and spoke about arches from the times of the Mamluks and the Crusades, 700 years old arches, 1,000 years old arches. Right now, we are standing under a 2,000 years old arch from the times of the Second Temple. This is one of the arches of the Great Bridge that was built by King Herod, the bridge that connected between the upper city, the Jewish quarter of today, to the Temple Mount itself, and helped the Kohanim who were serving in the temple, and helped all those hundreds of thousands who came for the three regalim, for Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot to visit the temple. This bridge helped them to cross the valley and enter into the temple plaza. I welcome you to the beautiful Bet Knesset, Sha'arei Tshuva, a Bet Knesset that was built inside the Western Wall tunnels a few years ago. What makes this synagogue so special, other than its beauty, is his location. This is the nearest one can get without going up to the Temple Mount to the place of where the temple used to be. Less than 400 feet from where we are right now, you will find yourself on the top of Mount Moriah, the place of the binding, the place where two temples stood, Solomon's temple and the second temple, which makes this place so special, like a battery of hopes, dreams, and prayers of so many millions around the world, aiming their hearts to the Kotel, to the Western Wall. When you're at the plaza itself, at the praying plaza, under your feet, you have something like 18 meters of original Kotel all the way down to the bedrock. This is the Western Wall. Look how well it was preserved. After so many years, the wall was covered. So it was not damaged by the sun, or the rains, even the snow. It's snowy from time to time. Every few years we have some snow here also in Jerusalem. And here, when it was covered for so many years, you can see the beautiful preservation of the wall. You can see the framing that I was mentioning earlier, the Herodian framing. And it just opens the imagination of how the wall looked like 2,000 years ago, when those thousands of people came from all over the Roman Empire for the food festivals, for the regalim, for Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, to visit the temple and to make maybe the most important commandment of those days, the Aliyah LaRegel, come and visiting the temple 3 times a year. So one of the latest foundings that we have here in the excavations of the Western Wall tunnels is this part of a Roman street that was here 2,000 years ago. It was a long street coming up all the way from the area of the Silwan Pool, going up north next to the Western Wall. And you know, maybe they even called it the Wall Street. But this street was some kind of a market, yeah, for those pilgrims, for those Olim LaRegel who came here to Jerusalem. We can see those niches over there. Maybe these were shops where people bought whatever they needed to prepare themselves before going up to the Temple Mount. Look, there is water here, fresh water, in a 2,000 years old mikveh. Wonderful, just beautiful. We spoke a little bit about the physical preparations of those who came to visit Jerusalem on the 3 regalim, but the last thing that they would do before going up and visiting the Temple Mount, they would cleanse themselves, they would purify themselves. And what is the Jewish way of purifying yourself? Going into a mikveh. Till today, in archaeological excavations in Jerusalem and around it, more than 200 ritual baths, mikveh places from the times of the Second Temple were found. This one right here that was excavated in the Western Wall tunnels is maybe the most beautiful mikveh that was ever found, in my opinion, not only in Israel and not only in the Middle East, in the entire world. Look at it. So once the archaeologists made all their way to the northern wall of this room, look at it. Water are coming out from the wall. Until today, we don't know to say exactly where these water are coming from. Look at it. Clean, fresh water, so that for years and years are pouring into this mikveh. And there are different opinions regarding this, where these waters are coming from. Maybe a local aquifer that is leading fresh water, rainwater to this room. The plaster is cracked, and this is why we are not being flooded here. But it's amazing to think that 2,000 years ago, Jewish pilgrims who came from all over the Roman Empire came here and took their ritual bath as the last act before going up to the temple place. Yes, we are back at the Kotel, back at the wall. Again, this is the same Kotel that we all know from outside, only a little bit to the north. And this is a very, very special stop at the Kotel at the Western Wall. Look at this block. The length of this block is around 12 meters, around 44 feet long. The height of the block was around 3 meters high, and the base inside is another 2.5, maybe 3 meter base, 3 meter depth. So if you'll do now the numbers and you will double the length with the height, with the base, and you will add the material, you will get to the crazy number of around 550 tons weight block. This is one of the heaviest, biggest construction blocks ever been found in archaeological excavations in the world. When the Romans came to destroy the temple in the year 70 AD on Tisha B'Av, they wanted to destroy everything. Not just the temple itself up there, but also the temple plaza and the retaining walls. So what did they do? They started to push down the Kotel blocks. Row after row, they just knock it down to the valley. When they got to this row, when they got to this block, no chance to push it. So what did they do, the Roman soldiers? They just sat on the rock. They literally sat on the rock and slowly started to chisel it. This is why on that side, on the southern side of the block, you can see that it's broken, and the smaller blocks are stones that were completed by the early Muslims later on in history. This is a great symbol for the glory of the temple, but this is also a great symbol for the destruction of the temple. Here, on this point, you can see the destruction on your own eyes. How they broke the wall, how they broke the stone 2,000 years ago. And the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago is something that is still in the Jewish DNA, in our hearts till today. Every year on the fast of Tisha B'Av, if you will come here to the plaza, to the Kotel, you will see people sitting on the floor, praying, crying, yearning to the temple like it happened yesterday. It's still alive in people's hearts. When Jewish people are sitting for the Seder dinner every year in Pesach, in Passover, the last sentence that people are saying for thousands of years will be Leshana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. Every Jewish groom in the wedding standing under the chuppah, before he will break the glass, he will say, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim, tishkach yamini. If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand with it. The destruction of the temple is something that is still living in our hearts, and the great dream and the great hope to have peaceful life here in Israel, in Jerusalem. As we are walking alongside the wall towards the north, less than 400 feet from where we are right now, this is the exact location of the top of the Mount Moriah, the place where the two temples stood. And this specific place here in the tunnels is very, very special, because right now we are opposite to the Holy of Holies. The temple itself was divided in 3 different sections, and the westernmost room in the temple was the Holy of Holies, Kodesh HaKodeshim. Into the Holy of Holies, only one man entered only one day a year. It was the Kohen Gadol, the Jewish high priest in the day of Yom Kippur, the day of atonement, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. He would pray inside, and at the end of Yom Kippur, he would come out of the Holy of Holies in a great joy, and everyone would know that a new year can start. A good year of health, of prosperity, and peace. And this is a very, very special place where Jewish women are praying 24/7, all year long, making sure that this place will always have someone praying for the sake of Israel, for the sake of humanity.
Ancient Susia, a Second Temple period Jewish village here in the mountains of Judea. Come discover this village and so much more as we unravel the mysteries behind the path of the patriarchs in the next episode of Land of the Bible.
Thank you so much for joining us here to the Land of the Bible. There is so much more to see, and I invite you all, each and every one of you, to come here to Jerusalem and connect to your biblical heritage.